Hello, first grade friends. It's art time with Miss Dom. That's me. Today we're going to be talking about texture. So for today's lesson, you're going to need some crayons. You don't have to have 64 colors, whatever number of colors you have. If they're old and broken, that's even better for what we're doing today. If you're noticing on the screen where you're watching me, on your right-hand side, there is on the top another video that is just a song about texture. And then below that is a workbook page. So if you got the workbook when you picked up your school supplies, you can go ahead and find that page. It's sort of in the middle of the book. It's not right at the beginning. And you can take a look at that page. On that page, they are talking about something known as implied texture. In other words, when you draw lines a certain way and use colors a certain way, you can create the illusion of texture on a surface that's flat. So it looks like it has texture. So texture means the way something feels. So it could be something that looks sort of rough. It could be something that looks smooth. It could be something that looks fuzzy. It could be something that looks scratchy or pointy. All those words are texture words, okay? And so in the workbook, it gives you some suggested textures to sort of try and make something look like wood or look like brick. So you can give that a try after this video. But I have another texture activity for you that I'm going to demonstrate right now. So we are going to find things that have actual texture to do texture rubbings. And so we're going to create that implied texture by using real texture. And so I have a few examples that I wanted to share with you. This is one I did outside of my house. So this one right here, I have a little chest. It looks like a treasure chest that has texture on it that I did. This one right here was on my porch. My porch is made of wood, so I just laid the paper down and did my rubbing on the ground. Another couple that I did on the ground. This one right here is the mat in my kitchen that I stand on by the sink. It's sort of like a squishy rug, but it's not fuzzy. And then this one right here is the sidewalk in front of my house before you step onto the porch, which was this texture over here. Okay, so these are a few rubbings that I did, and I used just copy paper. If you have any copy paper, you can use that. You can use notebook paper, or you can use some of that paper that you have from your supplies that I gave you. I gave you some paper. Don't use the big white paper, but I gave you some newsprint paper. The newsprint paper is perfect for this because it's thinner. And we'll use the big white paper later because we're going to actually do a project with some of these rubbings later. So for now, we're just exploring. And I want to show you how to make a rubbing. And if you have a lot of copy paper at home, you can do a whole bunch. If you're using the newsprint paper, of course, you're kind of limited, but you can do more than one on a paper like I did here. I don't recommend doing it on both sides unless, these are actually two papers. They're blank on the back, unless you mess up. So if you don't like the way it looks, just do it again on the other side. But later on, we're going to do an activity where you sort of cut and collage, and so you don't want to have two really good textures on either side. Then you have to choose which one you want to use. So just stick with one. So how do we make these rubbings? I'm going to show you. So you need to start with a crayon. Now this crayon's fairly new, so it's looking pretty good, and it has the wrapper on it. And remember when I said old crayons are actually really good for this activity? Here's why. I am going to actually peel some of the wrapper off of this crayon. Let me do that in front of the camera so you can see. All right, I'm just peeling it. All right, you don't have to peel the whole thing, but that's probably enough right there. But if it's an older crayon, usually they're a little easier to peel, or maybe they're already peeled, okay? So it looks like this now. And the reason I'm doing that is because I'm going to be rubbing like this along the surface of the texture on the paper, okay? So it's gonna go like that, okay? So I'm not using it the way we normally use a crayon, which is, you know, with the pointy side. It's gonna be laying flat like this, okay? That's how we're gonna do the texture rubbing. So I'm going to use my crayon, and I've got something set up here. Since I'm using my webcam on my computer, I can't really walk you outside to do what I did for the other one. So I'm just going to put this up here. So this is my little drawing board. And this right here is a mat that I have normally sitting on my table, that I have things like my salt and pepper and sugar bowl and things sitting on. So I grabbed that. So you're going to have to just investigate, look around, find things that have interesting texture, okay? So I found this was just happened to be sitting on my kitchen table, and so I'm going to use that. So I'm going to take my paper, and since I have this clip here, you don't need to clip it because you can just lay it flat, but since mine's standing up, I'm going to do that. And I'm going to put that right over it, okay? So you're going to put your paper on top of the texture that you want to rub. So you want to find things that have texture that aren't going to tear the paper. So if it's like something really spiky, obviously if it's going to poke holes in the paper, that wouldn't be a good thing to do a texture rubbing on. Or if it's really, really smooth, like my tabletop, that's probably not a good choice either. So you want to find something that has texture but isn't too rough, if that makes sense. So I'm going to take my crayon, and again, I'm not pointing it, I'm laying it flat like this, and then I'm just going to go across. Now that paper is moving around a little bit, even though it's clipped. So I'm going to take my hand and put it here to help prevent it from moving around so much. And I'm just rubbing all over. And you can see that the beads that are on that little mat are creating an interesting texture rubbing. Okay, so that's my texture rubbing. And so it's a flat sheet of paper, but now it seems to have this sort of bumpy texture on it. Let me get a little closer so you can see. Okay? And that's about it. And so I want you to look around, find some things with interesting texture. It can be inside, it can be outside. You just need to keep your crayons handy. Peel them down a little bit like I did. And then save your rubbings for next time. And we'll have a little fun with them. So thanks for tuning in to your first art lesson of the year, where we're going to do an activity. And I will see you next time. Have those texture rubbings handy, and we'll do some more interesting art activities and learn a little bit more the next time we have art next week. Bye for now, and don't forget to watch the video that you see and continue doing your art.